Let's welcome, with a big applause, Robert Weller.
Thank you, Frank. So who of you guys does marketing? Raise your hand. Okay, a few of you. Who of you does content? Why isn't there every hand up in the air? Who of you would call himself or herself a content expert? All right, come on, guys. Right. Which one of you knows what the future of content looks like? Okay, you come right up here. It's okay. Now, this is actually quite an interesting topic. When Ina asked me, when Acrolinks asked me, so thanks again for the invitation, if I want to do the keynote on the future of content, I was like a bit baffled, because how should I know what the future of content looks like? But I think this is actually the absolute essence on it. So I'm the kind of opening act, I guess, today. So what I want to do is, I can't wait for this evening to get to know you guys, because Frank just mentioned something like personas and the audience you want to talk to. So I will count to 3, and you just shout your name, all right? So that I get to know you a little bit. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, nice to meet you. I'm Robert Weller. I'm a content strategy coach based in Munich. I work in a small agency, and we do content marketing, content strategy consulting. As Frank mentioned, I'm an Adobe brand ambassador. Probably the modern name would be I'm an influencer, social media influencer, but this is somehow a term that is negatively associated in the meantime, so I prefer the word ambassador. I do a lot of speeches in the meantime in the German area, going international as I'm standing here. And actually, as Frank also said, I have been doing content all my professional career, and I'm only 29 years old, so you could argue this career hasn't been very long so far, but I don't know anything else, and I might be that kind of a generation where content is actually not a thing anymore. It's just everything, anything, and nothing. So what I want to do today is just have a look at what actually content looks like and what it can be. And then maybe one last thing, because I'm on Twitter. That's this social media platform. Who's on Twitter? Okay, I'm going to count the tweets after this keynote and after today, so I want every one of you to tweet this. We have the hashtag AcrolinksCC, so use it. This is my handle, Tushen. And I want to kick off with something that I see that is on the rise in terms of content, because a lot of companies have been just producing content. Can you actually see if I stand here? Right. I see a lot of companies producing content, and producing even more content, but they don't really look at why they're doing it, who's actually consuming it. And there's so much content that actually the consumer can't even decide which content he or she is supposed to consume. They can't evaluate the quality of the content that's out there. They don't even get the full scope of the amount of content that's online. So what I see will be a future, or is actually today already, is content management, okay? Management in terms of why do we need to produce, as companies, new content? Maybe there's enough content. I mean, there's a simple rule that I always tell my clients: do you really need to publish it, or has somebody else done it already? If they have, leave it. If you can do it better, do it better. But the thing is, we don't need more content, but we need content that does more, that adds value to the customers, to the consumers, and to us as companies and as content producers and publishers as well. So we should rather have a look at our content portfolio and see what we have, see what it actually does for us, does for the consumers, does for the customers, and see if we can actually repurpose what we have, combine it, update it, enhance it in many different ways that there actually are. Publish it on different platforms, maybe reach new audiences by doing so, put them into new formats, turn a text into video. You know, this is better than producing just completely new content to a certain extent. And we should just have a look at how many resources we actually have we can dedicate to the content production in comparison to the content management. And I see a shift here in the future that we are actually going to content management, asset management, that we need to work with what we have instead of producing more and more and more that doesn't really add value to anyone. And doing that probably comes from a marketing perspective, so I work a lot in marketing. And they all started doing this content for the point of visibility. Search engine marketing, search engine optimization, just to get the ranks in Google. But then again, now we're facing something like Alexa and Google Home, where there is no search engine result page. You have to be the number one and not top 10, top 5. You have to be the one. So it's not about keywords anymore on a, let's say, a very basic level, but it's also about key phrases. So what does the consumer actually ask? What do they want to know? How are these different questions related to each other, and how can we combine them in the content we produce? And then there's this thing that Google forces you to combine your content, the content you have, into topic clusters that not only Google, but all the consumers realize and can understand what you're actually an expert for, what topic. So we're here all talking about content, but is content a small enough topic cluster somehow for everyone to understand what we're actually doing? For example, I do a lot of marketing content. So yesterday, I heard a lot of you do like the technical documentation for products. That's also content, and I would call that a different cluster than the marketing content, for example. Then there's service content as well. There's thought leadership content, for example, the mind's thinking. Then there's like ideation, like Andrew's doing a lot of stuff in AI. And you guys developing the Alexa skills and the bots. That's maybe a technological content as well in a very futuristic way. So there are different clusters that we have to think about where we want to specialize, if we have to specialize, if we want to specialize, just to make it easier for everyone else to understand what we actually do. And now, if we don't understand what we're doing, how should anyone else? So I see for the future of content, and when I say future of content, I actually mean yesterday onwards, is that we have to look at the data, okay? But I say data informed because this is something where I get really angry when people say, yeah, well, we now do content-driven, data-driven content. I just stand there and say, no, I hope not. Not data-driven, but data-informed. Okay, that's really a difference. Because data-driven means you just look at the numbers and do whatever the numbers tell you. But it might not, A, be correct. It might not help you to reach your goals. But instead, you actually want to use the data you have and the information you have. And you are the persons to ask the right questions, to set up the analytics in the way you need them, in a way that they are actually actionable for you to use to reach your goals, to add value for your customers and your business. So you want to use the data and dive deep into the science of data analytics, maybe, to really interpret the data in a way that they are beneficial for you so that you can enhance your product, your content production, content distribution, basically everything you do related to content. And to do that, I think there are several benefits of doing so. And probably two of the most discussed buzzwords in the industry might be this mass customization. Are you familiar with the term? No? This could be, for example, actually this is on a product-based level out of the digital space, is, for example, Adidas. You can customize, as a customer, your own shoe online. But they don't, send your ideas to India to have anyone stitch your shoe together, but this is like a mass customization because they just fill your individual design into their production line, and it comes out and is shipped to you, and that's it. And they can do that on scale. And the same thing is or will be possible with content in the digital space as well. So you want basically to know what your audience wants to have, give them the opportunity to actually tell you what they want to have, so that you can customize the content you have for them, especially. And the second that goes actually with it is this personalization and hyper-personalization. So I see a lot of examples when I open up a website that is actually personalized. There are two levels of personalization. One is a fairly general personalization, geographic data used, some kind of socio-demographic data. So they can tell when I open up this website in Munich, they say, hey, enjoy the sunshine, or although there's sunshine outside of Munich, we're glad you're here. Or when they know me, they can say, hey, hi, Robert, welcome back to our website. This is kind of a personalization, but on a very basic level. What you want to do is use the data you can actually have to hyper-personalize to the content you offer on the website. Okay, so in future, there won't be one website we have. Well, actually, yes, it will be one website, but it won't look the same for everybody. Okay, if you're interested in one topic cluster, you will get all the content just related to that one cluster. If then a second person comes to the same website, he will get a completely different set of content based on his interests or her interests. This can change dynamically. If I visit a website in the morning, I might get something different than in the evening or in my lunch break. They might actually just give me random stuff like, hey, we've got this special lunchtime offer. Because they know I've only got the time at lunchtime to visit their website. Otherwise, I'm busy working. So they don't want to annoy me, but they know I'll be coming in my lunch break to check out what they have on their website. So this is hyper-personalization as well. And you just have to think of what you can actually personalize. And you will come up with so many ideas what you can actually personalize that is beneficial to the consumer. I just can't stop smiling when I think of all the opportunities you can have. Because this is, this creates such a positive content experience with consumer when you visit the website and it has everything you want and nothing else, nothing you don't want. I guess that's the difference. There's nothing you don't want on a website that is hyper-personalized. And this is something, there's a high level of dynamics in all this content stuff because content can change. We're in a digital space. It's not fire and forget, publish and pray, and all this stuff that you know from the printed and the offline content. But anything you push online, content-wise, you can edit any time. So there's a very high level of dynamics in all this content area. And to make that possible, I guess we can't not use technology. And this is, I guess, where the fun starts with cool tools like Acrolinks, and where artificial intelligence comes into play. But then again, all this talk about, oh, will AI kill our jobs and take away our jobs, and will AI be needed? Yes, of course it will. We all will, because someone has to train the machines. Someone has to ask the right questions. Someone has to interpret the data. Someone has to actually take action on the data. Someone has to use the data, not just produce it, aggregate it, sort it, enrich the data. Someone has to actually use it and transform it into content, into the added value for the consumer, and this is us doing it. So it's not machine versus human, it's machine plus human. Always keep that in mind, because especially in Germany, I see there's a lot of anxiety going on. AI, oh my gosh, no, please don't. It's probably all the Hollywood films that cause that image, but it's not true. I mean, yes, it can be true if you're not careful of what the hell is actually going on. But then again, that's your own fault, because you're just naive, too naive to dive deep into the topic and educate yourself. And this is, I think, the future of content as well, that you have to educate yourself on what is actually possible related to content. And then there's this, I know I'm just throwing buzzwords at you, just I want to get your brain started for today and maybe tomorrow for those of you who are still there. So there's this term automation, and a lot of us, especially if you're in marketing, it's probably a relief for you to hear this and to know the possibilities you have with content automation, because you don't have to do all the nitty-gritty work, all these tedious daily business jobs that you don't really like doing, that are absolutely boring and don't add value to anyone, and just get you really annoyed all day, and you go home in the evening and say, oh, I've done all this shit again, same thing I did yesterday. And this is where technology comes in and can actually relieve us from these tedious tasks. They can do everything that is rule-based. Everything that we have to repetitively do, automation can do and technology can do. They basically relieve our daily business, make it better. So what does that mean? That means that we have more time and more creative mind space to actually think about new things. And creativity, not in terms only of adapting what we have, adapting to new trends, adapting to new platforms, optimizing the content we have, working with our portfolio so that we squeeze the maximum value out of everything we have. And it's not only about campaigning, because every agency that does content somehow seems to be a marketing agency, and they will sell you anything that's called campaign, anything they can make money with, but not necessarily you. But this is also creative business and creative content that a lot of companies haven't been doing for I don't know how many years. They have been just doing all this technological work and these tedious tasks and all the creative bits. They had to outsource because they didn't have the resources to do it themselves internally. And this can change, and this is the huge opportunity, because you know your customers better than the agencies, hopefully. You know what's going on and what will be going on in your company, where you're heading, where you want to go. You have a better grasp of the market you're marketing to. So you can actually do all the creative work and then turn it around and tell the agency what they should be doing, instead of they telling you what they will be doing and why that's beneficial for you or not. So you can start creating, and by creating I mean not producing necessarily, but it's also about creative thinking. You have the time and the mind space to think about everything I just threw out the wall and I'm going to throw out the wall in the next few minutes. You have the time to think about what it actually means to use technology. You have the time to think about how you can personalize a website. You have the time to think about what your consumers would like to have, would like to see, what content they would like to consume. You can think of new stories where you're the ideal one to provide this content. So there's a lot of creative work, and all this creative work, again, this is something AI can't do for us. We are the creative minds, and even if you say, no, I'm not creative, no. There's an analytical creativity as well. All right? So everyone can learn to be, to a certain extent, a creative mind, a creative thinker. I mean, there are things like design thinking. This is something you can learn, and now you've got the time to learn it. And this is a huge opportunity you should take. And then when you look at what you can be doing or haven't been doing for the last few years, there's multimedia content you can produce. Because, I mean, I had a chat with the guy from SAP last week. SAP? Anyone from SAP here? No, okay, that's good. They have thousands of authors for product documentation. And he sat there saying, well, yes, actually there are 1,000 authors in terms of writers. And then somehow we got to the point where I asked the question, do actually all your consumers have the time to read all this documentation? And he said, no, well, no. Right, okay. So what they've been doing is they have been educating their own authors to create multimedia content, create audios, create videos, presentations, whatever the consumer likes best. And I mean, there are recent studies from Google saying that, hey, on YouTube, how-to videos are actually now most viewed type of videos people watch. And it can be entertaining, so don't get me wrong. It's not all business. Business can be fun as well. Should be fun, actually. But this is something where we can go to and move from text to multimedia, because, as I said, Alexa. Have you ever had, you know, when I tell my phone to ring someone, just a company, and I get to 2-sentence, okay, I am now ringing, company from Munich, is that okay? And I say, yes, fuck it. Just say, yes, I'm going to call them. Why is that? That is because that company wrote such an introduction on their Google local page, which then again Alexa and Google read out loud. Who cares? I just want to bring them up. And this is something where you can actually think about what is, you know, what's the user experience like? And do your consumers want to read? Do they want to watch? Do they want to listen while they're commuting? Who of you uses, who of you reads on a Kindle? Who listens to books, audiobooks? Still half, 50-50, I would say. I'd be interested to see how it is next year. Because this time commuting, even especially when you're driving by yourself, you can listen, but you can't read. And this is just, you know, walk around your flat or your house and just ask questions. Some technological device is there to answer the questions. But you can't walk around your house reading. It would work, but you would probably have bruises everywhere. So in terms of multimedia, you can start creating and educating and learning new things. And I think this is something that especially the, don't get me wrong, older generation isn't doing. They just, do what they can do best. But at some point, every one of us stops learning, and I think this is something we shouldn't be doing. Because the market is so dynamic, and basically every day there's something new we can learn, should learn, want to learn, hopefully. And I mean, all this talk about virtual reality, augmented reality. Who of you have you tried out virtual reality? Who hasn't? Okay, do it. It's really fun. When I see people who have virtual reality, and I will never forget this picture. I was standing next to the guy, and he had a wooden plank on the floor, flat on the floor. So he put on this virtual reality glass, and what he saw was the Grand Canyon. And he stood on this plank, which was lying on the floor, flat, something like this. Well, you just stand next to it and think, just walk. Okay? But it's a whole new experience. So try it out. Who of you played Pokemon Go? Yeah, come on. Come on, be honest. Who hasn't? This is augmented reality, and it just came to the right time because everyone was sitting there reading about, hearing about augmented reality and wanted to try it for themselves. Google Maps has augmented reality as well. Have you seen what Google Maps is planning for the new routing? They actually integrate augmented reality in the camera, and they show you like arrows where you have to go. Instead of having this blue dot and you're not really sure if you have to walk to the left or to the right, and you start walking to the left only to realize, damn, it would have been the right. Now you can switch on the camera and it actually gives you the arrows where you have to go. That's a whole new experience. And this is where the future of content is going. That is content. That is entertainment, that is information, that's just useful and valued for the consumer. So this is actually where we should be going. And the thing is, by incorporating all this multimedia and all this new stuff, we're able to tell new stories. And stories is the main thing that actually separate you from the other companies. You can offer the same product, the same service, for the same price, but what separates you, apart from the logo, it's your story. So we can focus on telling stories, content stories, right? Different story for different platforms, different story for different audiences, different stories for different products. There are so many opportunities to tell these different stories that we aren't using yet, which is a lost opportunity. Because what happens with stories is it creates an image in your mind. And the human being is primed for visual. So I mean, just think about half our brain is there to process visual data, things we see. We can remember a lot longer than things we have to read. We can see quicker. We can gather the information quicker than reading. Okay, so I mean, you just gave me your names within a second. If I had to read all your names somewhere on a piece of paper, it would have taken me ages to do so. Not that I can recite every name of yours, but I might be this evening. So the thing is, by telling stories, you have a lot of opportunities to explain your brand, explain your product, explain the how and especially the why you do stuff, right? Where your ideas come from, who you actually want to use your product. And then you can take it down to a very personal level, and I think this is where it actually comes down to in the end, to create personal engagement, to get the people, to contact them. Digital space, this is something Andrew and I have met before, but we're here together, and this is like, hey Andrew, nice to see you again. This is weird, but this is how relationships develop in a digital age, through personality, through personal stories. This is what you want to do with actually each and every single one of your customers, not just the audience, right? And speaking about doing this all is a very good word, because there is a kind of holistic approach that you want to have to your content, especially internally, because when I go into the office of my client, I always see, well, hello, welcome to the marketing department. This is where you're going to work for content. I say, okay, hello, marketing department, where are the others? And they just sit there like, what is it? No, it's marketing doing the content. I mean, same with service. And I say, okay, hello, marketing department, who's the designer? No one. Okay, who's the developer? No one. Okay, who's the guy in service? Who's the ear of and the eyes and the voice of the customer? No one. All right? And they're missing out opportunities because they have such a restricted view on the market and what they're actually doing and for whom they're doing it. You should be looking at it, producing content and using content in a very holistic way. Right? You should not only kind of take into account everyone you have, every one of your company, your marketing, your design, your product development, your service, your sales, even the management, the designers. Everyone is actually in the position to create content or to give you input for creating content. There might be people who just listen to the customer, service, sales. They can give you, as content producers in marketing and product development, they can give you ideas for what the people actually need. 5 minutes to go, okay. I'll just speed it up a little. And then, just look at everything you have. And then just don't focus on the internal perspective, just you as a company, but take it outside, right? You can collaborate inside as cross-functional teams, as I just mentioned. Get the designer on board, get the developer on board, get the service guys on board, get the sales guys on board, get the marketing guys on board, get anyone on board, because only if you have this holistic view and you work together and you collaborate, you can actually produce what is best for the consumer. And then again, why don't you get the consumer on board as well? Get them inside. All these talk about user studies. Yeah, I'm serious. Just get them inside, talk to the consumers. Would you be interested in, hey, here's content, what do you think? Just get their opinion. That's, again, personal communication. They will be, well, let's say, eager to form a relationship, a long-lasting relationship with you. And then the thing is, projects should never stand over processes. So project with, we're going to start today and we're going to finish in a week. No, this is not how content works. Content is there to stay. It has always been there 25 years ago. It'll be there 50 years ago, in 50 years in time. There will always be content in what way or the other, in what definition or the other. So just integrate it. See it as a process. Whatever you're doing, it's a process. It's a cycle of analyzing, producing, testing, reviewing, optimizing, analyzing, producing. And then again, you guys from product development, you know how it works. The guys from marketing don't. So there's an advantage. Get them on board and start collaborating. And then get the audience on board. Get your clients on board. Get the prospects on board. You don't necessarily only want to tell them what they should be doing, this ominous call to action, which is there to tell them what they should be doing. Else, if you don't tell them, they won't do anything. But you should focus your content on engagement. It's not only about reach, visibility, conversion, sales. It's about interaction and engagement. Get them involved. Get the people involved, and they will be nearer to your brand than in any way else you could achieve it, right? And then there's this thing, and I think this is probably one of the most prominent buzzwords going around in the market, is experience. And some people say, well, experience was there for a long time, user experience design. I would call it content experience in the meantime. But this is something you should focus on, and there's a lot going on about emotion. There's a lot about relationships that you can form through emotion. And there's loyalty that is basically a logical consequence from relationships, positive relationships. And this is what you should be looking at when you use content for your company. And now, to kind of wrap this up, because my time's nearly over, and yours starts, I think we have to entirely rethink the whole approach of content we have right now. Not only looking at numbers, having one goal, and then producing content and see if nobody cares, but to get everyone on board, to find the ideas that are really beneficial to the customers, to the consumers, then create it in the best way we can, and then see how it provides value over time. And instead of going by plain numbers and platforms or goals, just take it all into account, everything you have, get it together, put it together like a small puzzle. You might not need every piece, every second, and from the start. But in the end, the more pieces you put together, the better your picture and the better your content will be. So in a nutshell, I tried to put this into one sentence, that the future of content lies in the art of visually appealing, highly personalized storytelling to entice an audience we know well, data, to engage with our content and experience our brand so that they convert into customers and we are able to build long-lasting relationships. I think this is something that sums it up very well. But now, to be honest, this is the easy part. Because the thing is, every single one of you has to be able to envision the future of content. You have to create your own vision of what the future of content looks like. Because only if you know what it might look like or what it should look like for you, you are able to prepare for it. So the question is not what the future of content looks like, but guys, and I'm serious, the question is, what do you guys want it to look like? Because the future of content is created by me, it's created by you. Best thing of all, it's created by all of us. Thank you very much.
Robert Vella.